So happy to meet you, Gary. Wow, we're crushing it here at VeeCon.
Thank you.
Tell me, what was the onus for starting an event like this?
It probably goes back as far as 10 years, which would be 23, 13. Yeah, probably 4 or 5 years into my speaking career. It was really off to a great start. I was doing a lot of speaking and I went to a lot of conferences. And, I'm an entrepreneur more than I am an author,
Right.
more than I am, an influencer. And so I thought, I need to do one of these myself. I need to have my own conference. So it's been permeating, manifesting, kind of like percolating for a long time. And when I decided to do VFriends, I knew I wanted there to be a real life utility to take advantage of the NFT smart contract. And it just felt very obvious that it needed to be, really needed to be something that was the highest impact event on the conference.
Is this exceeding your expectations?
I don't really create those kind of expectations. Like, usually I don't even create expectations. I create a focus to try to make it great. I focus on trying to bring as much value as possible. So I don't think about exceeding or not exceeding. I just think about executing.
Who are you most excited to see on stage?
That's a good question. There's a panel with Carla Hassan, Carolyn Eberson, Pam Kaufman, and others that I'm incredibly excited, like Gail Tifford. These are female CMOs of the biggest brands in the world that I've gotten to know for a decade. And so I'm friends with them, but they're also like the titans of marketing, but they're also best friends. So it's going to be like a girls' barber shop or like a salon shop talk mixed in with like heavy, like real amazing business content. So I think they're going to crush. I love that.
What I find so fascinating about you, Gary, is I love everything you do seems to have an homage to the 1980s. And you're doing the 80s in such a different and unique way. Where did that come from, besides living in the 80s?
Living in the 80s. Yeah, no, but you know this. Like, I think the ones of us that grew up in the 80s and early 90s, like, we love our decade in a way that I think is a little bit different. I kind of look at the way people talk about their decades. Like, I don't know, like, I love pop culture.
Yeah.
And there was so much of it going on in the 80s. And so, I just think I was overly affected by the era.
What is your least favorite decade? In terms of pop culture.
In terms of pop culture, probably this one currently right now, only because it's not finished, because I do respect the 90s, I think were really cool, that Nickelodeon era. Like, I understand, like, the 2000s, I think, has a lot of stuff that was really revolutionary. So, I don't know if there's one that I dislike. It's probably the one we're in right now, because we have 3 years to get it going.
I love that. So for new entrepreneurs who are burgeoning and just like starting the hustle, if you will, what is your best advice you would give them?
I think that the game is based on self-awareness and kindness to oneself. So what I would say to them is, like, don't beat yourself up for all the misses up front. Losing is an incredibly important part of this. And so that would be my biggest advice. Like, fall in love with the losing and don't judge yourself.
Have you ever felt like you've made a mistake in your business and that you regret, or do you have any regrets in terms of building this empire that is Gary Vee?
I don't, probably the only regret I have is that what AJ was just talking about on stage, candor was something that came very late to my career. Even today, I would call it one of the bigger weak points of my full stack of skills. So I regret that the people that I, fired or like that I didn't warn ahead of time, I didn't give critical feedback to. There were sloppy exits in my 20s and 30s that I definitely regret because I don't have as good of a relationship with people that I could have based on me fumbling it at the end. But in general, I'm not overly worried about the mistakes. I mean, I was laughing when you said, have you made any mistakes? I'm like, I've made 4 today.
Really? Like, where? Tell us. Give us the details.
Like, I think the seats on the VeeCon stage are one section too far to the side. I think it should have been indoor. Like, just like, I'm thinking about stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think that it's just part of the game, and I'm okay with that.
Right. Now, it seems like you amass so many things. I mean, just from everything you do where your business touches so many different industries. When do you think enough is going to be enough?
The day I started.
Explain that a little bit.
Sure. I'm not looking to last. I'm just looking to play. Or the whole, like, like, it's not super complicated. Like, I don't really do this to achieve the trophies or the accolades or the admiration or the money, or those are just byproducts of a cocoon that I live in, which is I want to play my game. And my game since I was 6, 5, 7 was entrepreneurship. I sold lemonade, not for the accolades. I sold baseball cards, not for the followers. I worked at my daddy's liquor store 12 hours a day for less, thank you. I didn't do that for the money, for damn sure. I did it because I love my game. And so to answer your question directly, enough was enough the day I started.
Thank you. I love that. So what is one thing nobody knows about you that I need to know that has never been revealed before?
That's tough because the reality is that I'm very vulnerable and an open book. I think the thing that, especially with the people I'm looking at behind the cameras right now, I think the one thing that is not known is a thing that is maybe more misunderstood, which is the thing I'm most proud of is the closer you get to the inner circle of my life, starting with my parents and my siblings, the more likely it is that you believe. When you put out what I put out, when you do what I do, when you put yourself out there, when you are both focusing on motivational positivity and optimism, and you're talking about business, which comes along with the money and the other things that kind of the world looks at, it's very easy to be cynical. It's very easy to not believe it's true. I promise you that the 7 or 8 team members that I see that are around me, the most common question for them is like, what's Gary really like? Which, just even think about that question. What's the
answer?
I think the answer is extremely positive. I think anyone who's, and I think that process goes on, and I think it builds. I think Dustin answered that 3 years ago positively. I think he answered it more positively a year ago, and I think he answers it more positively this week because he has more affirmation, more examples, more moments, more truth, more messages, more realities, more listening to how people are affected by So I don't think there's something that's not known.
Right.
But I think what would make my biggest fans thrilled is that it's more real than they think. And would make my biggest detractors devastated is that it's more real than they think.
It's amazing. This has been such a privilege, and I cannot wait to get the article out. I'm going to send it.
Thank you.
Send it to the ladies.
Thank you.
Amazing. I don't know if I could get my book.
Of course.